Welcome to the pre-flighting video. In previous videos, we've talked about what pre-flighting is and the importance of pre-flighting for you as a graphic designer to know as you are designing your images. In this video, we will go through a pre-flighting checklist together and gain some experience in working with actual files. So before you continue, please download the pre-flight example from Canvas. Now that you've got the file downloaded, let's take a look at what we have here. Let's open up the pre-flight example. We can see that it's a packaged file, and we have our fonts, links, and our layout here. If we look into the links folder, we can see that there are two images. And in the fonts, we can see there are 4 fonts here. And you should make sure you have these fonts loaded before you continue. So you can pause the video here and load the fonts. I load them by double-clicking on my Apple. I can double-click and install them through FontBook. And even though there might be an error with the font, a caution, I've never had any problem with this font, so rest assured it's okay to install. If you are uncomfortable with that idea, then you can uninstall it as soon as the pre-flighting is done. Okay, now that we've got the fonts installed, let's go back and look at our layout, but also we have a pre-flight checklist over here. So let's open up the checklist first, and we're going to kind of set it over here so we can have both the layout and the checklist open at the same time. You can see on the checklist it's telling us that this is going to be a letter size document with an 1/8 of an inch bleed and 4-color process for the ink. So we're going to open the document, update the links if needed, and the fonts. Well, you've loaded the fonts already, and InDesign will tell us if there's any missing or problematic links or fonts. So let's go ahead and double click on the layout InDesign file. Here we can see it is telling us that we have a link to a source that is missing. You can find or relink the missing link using the links panel. So if we say OK, it takes us into the document, and sure enough, we have 3 images here. And if you recall, in the links folder, there were only 2 images in the links folder. I'm going to resize my windows here to be able to see both the checklist and the layout at the same time. Go ahead and pause the video and get your windows organized. Now that we've got our windows set, we can see that yes, we do have a missing link here. So we need to note that on the checklist. Now, if you want to just note this by hand on a piece of paper, you can feel free to do that. If you want to print the checklist out and just write on the checklist, that's fine. But ultimately, this needs to be uploaded to me as a digital document. So you can put the checklist into InDesign or Illustrator or Word and add text to it. Or you can use the commenting features in Acrobat, which allows us to just write comments directly onto the document, and then you can save it. So if you use the commenting feature, you can select this text box and then say, draw a box on there and say missing auction travel.jpg. Any missing or problematic fonts, sorry about that, any missing or problematic fonts would show when we open the document, but you can also double check that by going to the type menu and saying find font. And then this shows a list of the fonts in the document, and there would be a red question mark or a yellow warning sign here if there was a missing or problematic font. But we're okay on the fonts, so we'll continue. Next on the checklist is the document size. We need it to be 8.5 by 11. And also, is the bleed guide set to 1/8 of an inch? So to check that accurately, I'm going to use the document setup from the file menu. So go to file menu, document setup, and here it gives us the details of the document size and the bleed. The width of the document is too short. It is not 8.5 by 11, so they have a wrong document size. The bleed, however, is set correctly at 1/8 of an inch bleed. So I can say OK there, but now I need to note this to the designer. I am pretending that I am the pre-press operator, and oops, that's not correct. We want to say no, sorry. I'm the prepress operator, and I'm giving notes back to the designer on their artwork. So we had document size correct? No. Bleed guide is set? Yes. Do the bleed elements extend to the bleed guide? Visually check. So we look around here. A bleed element would be anything that's touching the edge of the page. I'm going to go to the toolbar here, and over the preview, I can go to a bleed preview where it shows the edge of the page as the black line, and then it shows the bleed space, so I can see anything that's not bleeding. For instance, this blue background is not bleeding. The designer did not set that up correctly. The text is touching the top. The text should bleed there too, and this image is not bleeding. Down here, these images are bleeding. That is good. But I need to note to the designer that the bleed elements do not extend to the bleed guide. So I'd circle no. We could type it in here to give more details for the designer. The more detail you can give the designer, the better. Okay, we're going to look at the swatches panel now and see how we're doing on the swatches. Ideally, you want your swatches cleaned up so there's no unnamed colors and there's no colors that are not being used. So there eliminates the chance of a problematic font. So I go to the swatches panel, go to the flyout menu, say add unnamed colors. Sure enough, a new color showed up there. Add unused colors, or select all unused, and we can see that there's many unused colors here. So that is something that the designer should clean up before we continue with this file in the print production. So I'm going to circle, yes, there are unused, unnamed colors. Are there any colors in the wrong mode? So this should be CMYK. Do we have RGB colors here? And we can look at these icons to tell us what mode they're in. And we can see there's a RGB color here by the red, green, and blue. And also this header blue color has a spot color icon next to it. So there are colors in the wrong color mode. So I'm going to tell the designer by circling that. We could also notate on here for the designer that yes, there's you could be more specific about the colors that are wrong. Is the registration swatch being used? Yes or no? So this registration swatch is a no-no swatch to use in design. It puts 100% ink on all the plates, which is too much ink coverage and can cause offsetting. So to check that, you can either click on areas that are black, or we can open up the separations panel from the output submenu of the window menu. And we'll turn on separations, and we can see by hovering our cursor over different areas, it shows us the color breakdown. So this is the header blue, and if we hover it over the headline, we get black. That's just showing 100% black and 100% blue. If you hover over this black text box down here, you can see that it shows 100% for all the colors in the separations preview. That is using registration. If I click on it, I can see that the registration swatch is selected and that's being used. So that's a no-no. So we're going to go back to this checklist and we'll circle, yes, the registration swatch is being used. Check for the correct number of inks. Are we using the right number of inks? Meaning it should just be 4 inks, CMYK, but we can see in the separations preview that there's 5 inks. We have cyan, magenta, yellow, black, and the header blue. That is the spot color that we had seen earlier. So the document is not set with the correct number of inks. We're going to circle, or we'll just have to write using spot color in here. Using spot color. At any point, if you need to pause the video and rewind and type in the text, feel free to pause the video. Are there any overprinting issues? Were black overprints part of the spot color or part of the color and would create a visual area of darker black? You can do that by turning off the black, and you can see in the areas, you turn it on and off and kind of watch what happens. And you can see where black is on the screen, like in the headline travel. When I turn it off, there's blue underneath that black. So that blue is overprinting there. And when I turn it on and hover over it, I can see there's 100% blue and 100% black there. So that is overprinting, and that would show a darker headline on the bottom half. You would see a line cutting halfway through that headline. So yeah, there is an overprinting issue there. I'm going to circle yes, we have an overprinting issue. Where? It's usually nice to tell the designer where, and we'll say headline. Okay, let's look at the ink limits. If we turn our separations to ink limit, it highlights anywhere that is over 300%. We set the pull down to 300. It highlights anywhere that's over 300% ink. There's a little bit in the image right there, but this is where the registration is being used. So yeah, we have an ink limit problem. I'm going to circle ink limits. And then we're going to check for overset text. So when we go back to our design, we can turn off now our ink limit and separations. We can close that panel. And what we do is we just select the text boxes and we look for a little red X in the bottom right corner. There's no red X there. There's no red X there. There's none there, none there. Yep, we have overset text there. So that means that all the words are not showing. There's text being cut off in that box. So I'm going to circle that to let the designer know, yes, there's overset text. Now we're going to look at the images. Are there any low resolution images, and also are there any in the wrong color mode? Remember, they should be CMYK or grayscale for this 4-color process job. So what we do is we go to the links panel and we select the link, and in the details of the link below, we can see the color space. This is RGB, so that's not good. And the effective PPI on this one is 250. That's okay. The Auction Surfer link is RGB, and the effective PPI is 72. That is low resolution. So Auction Surfer is low resolution. Even though this one's not linked, we still have information about it. So we can see that this is an RGB image, and it is also low resolution with the effective PPI low. You can also see with the effective PPI being 2 numbers, that means that it's stretched or squashed. So over here, we need to tell the designer, do we have low resolution? Yes. Do we have a wrong color mode? Yes. And then it's good to list for them which ones they are. For the wrong color mode, it's all images. And for the effective PPI, it was auction, travel, and Auction Surfer were the low resolution images. The last thing to do is just take a quick look and see if there's anything out of the ordinary in this design that you might catch that the designer didn't catch. Do you see anything out of the ordinary? Is text too close to there's text too close to the top of the page? Well, we kind of mentioned that with the bleed. These images down here are overlapping text. The designer maybe doesn't see that. So we would note anything strange. I'm going to circle yes here and then notate for him images at bottom overlap text. From here we can, so after you've thoroughly checked it, make any notations, and we've gone through and taken this document and looked at it very carefully, we can go to our checklist and we can close and save it. We can do a save as, PDF, put your name in it, Pavia, save it. And that'll be the file that you upload to me in Canvas. And you can close that. You can close the InDesign document. You don't have to save it. Close, don't save, and there we go. We are done. Please review this multiple times and become familiar with it, as it will be another assignment later in the course, and it will be on your final exam. Pre-flighting is very, very important. Thank you for watching.